Donald Trump threatens to widen his deportation net to include American citizens.
But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together.
Now keep in mind, the DOJ is also now threatening to strip naturalized citizens of their legal status for committing certain crimes. All of this comes as Trump is touting the opening of what he's calling Alligator Alcatraz, an immigration facility surrounded by swamp and predators that holds 3,000 people. Republicans are touting it as low cost, complete with water, sewage, and power. Critics call it inhumane. Despite all the sort of theater of the Alligator Alcatraz of it all, Trump's comments today were really stunning, honestly. American citizens, he's talking about people who were born here, and threatening to, put them in a deportation facility, deport them, take away their citizenship? What are we talking about here?
I mean, he even talked, I think, when he was with the El Salvadorian president about needing more prisons there for things like this. I mean, it's beyond, if you were to make a list of outrageous things Donald Trump was going to do, I don't think this would even have made it on the list. It is so just crazy. But the thing is that crazy things that Donald Trump says come to fruition. He will just do whatever he thinks. And now that this is in his mind, it's truly frightening that he might actually move forward and try to make a penalty for a crime being deportation for people who were born in this country.
Well, it's not being deported and dropped off. I think
that's the asshole.
The idea that
Scott Jennings, biggest asshole in the United States. One of them.
It's not legal or constitutional.
And I'm sure that'll be debated out, and if it's not, then it won't happen. But what he is saying is, if you have extremely violent populations that need to be housed in a prison somewhere, what's the difference between housing them in a prison here or there? Other than the debate, I guess, over the legality of it. But that's what he has been raising.
Other than a petty little thing called the law.
And
I mean,
I don't think
what authority would a president of the United States be able to deport American citizens to the jurisdiction of a foreign country, even for committing crimes?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the legality of it is. I don't know if the Department of Justice has issued a memo on it. Just for the purposes of this conversation tonight, what his point was, if you have extremely violent populations that need to be warehoused in a prison, he raised the idea of putting them in a prison.
We deal with extremely violent populations just
I just think that I don't think you can I don't think you can avoid what Alligator Alcatraz is. I mean, I don't think you can just turn a blind eye to it. I think it's anti-American. I think the fact that you're going to have individuals and populations in there.
Well, Scott Jennings is an asshole.
Many of whom without due process. And let me just also say this.
Look at the look on his face.
Clips throughout social media is that I don't think there's going to be any Democrat in this country, including myself or you, Christine, who says that if you have committed a violent crime or any crime whatsoever, you shouldn't be deported.
Right.
We're not saying that. You should be. However, the fact that Donald Trump this morning said you should learn how to swim sideways. I mean, there are certain things about this country and the virtues of it. And the reason that Donald Trump and others are able to build Alligator Alcatraz is because of the simple fact that you don't give people the benefit of their humanity. I also think that, look, if we want to have a conversation about who belongs where, when, how, and whether or not their citizenship status, and we want to look at everything, I mean, I would look at Donald Trump Jr. I mean, I would look at all of Melania's kids, all of Ivania's kids. I mean, let's just have a full conversation over who belongs here. How do they?
Amen.
Their citizenship.
Amen.
Let's just have a full discussion about all.
Let's have a discussion about that.
Right now. I mean, the only person here it should be Tiffany Trump if we're going to have this discussion.
Can I ask you, Pete, to respond to what Bakari said about the humanity of it all? The idea that because you're an undocumented immigrant, we don't know who they're going to put there.
Pete, another asshole.
We already know that a lot of the people that they're detaining don't have criminal records. Where is the humanity, and what place does it have in this conversation?
We'll have to see how many people actually end up there. I think part of this facility is to try and incentivize those who are here illegally to self-deport, to say, hey, you don't want to be here. You don't want to go to Alligator Alcatraz. So you should probably just leave the United States of your own accord. The DOJ memo is very interesting, going back to talking about legalities.
About denaturalizing
We can denaturalize citizens. That is
Two assholes. Assholes alert. Assholes alert.
Prioritize the enforcement of America's existing laws. There was an instance just earlier this year where somebody had their citizenship revoked, denaturalized. I can't even say the word. It happened because they were convicted of distributing child abuse materials.
Yeah,
it's something that can happen.
It is something that can happen, but it's something that is relatively rare and is usually reserved for things like what you're describing there. But one of the things that's interesting about that memo is that it says, in addition to heinous crimes, right? I'm not sure there's a lot of dispute about the code and what it says about crimes being a case for denaturalization. But it also says cases referred by a U.S. Attorney's Office in connection with pending criminal charges if those charges do not fit within one of the other priorities. So that's basically any crime. Maybe you're caught with marijuana. Maybe you're caught with marijuana. That's any crime. The number 10. Any other cases referred to the civil division that the division determines to be sufficiently important to pursue. So I think when people look at this, they look at this as a carte blanche.
Yeah, it's totally subjective.
To just say, Zohran Mamdani, you're a naturalized citizen. You're a high priority for us. We'll take it away.
Right.
What are the guardrails here?
And you just said it's a little loosey-goosey. This is not a good thing to be loosey-goosey with. Denaturalizing people, sending them to jails in El Salvador. I mean, you cannot, by definition, if there was one thing you wanted to have tightened up, it would be this. And you say the courts, so are people then going to be waiting in El Salvador on their knees, bent over, while we're waiting for the courts to decide whether that American citizen should have been taken out of this country?
I don't know, but I do know
That's not okay.
That you jump to the worst possible conclusion with nearly everything that Donald Trump says or does, including enforcing the laws of this
He
country.
said to the El Salvadorian president, we need more prisons there. I'm just thinking what he said.
I mean, there are plenty, according to Trump, of criminals who are here illegally that he can deport. Why does he keep talking about American citizens? Why is that a thing that keeps coming up? Denaturalizing people who have citizenship, who've gone through a process, it's an onerous process. It's not an easy thing to become a citizen of this country. Why does that keep coming up? And is this an open door for him to start using the same authorities that he's using against undocumented people against Americans?
Well, you heard him in the clip you played. He's obviously concerned about people who are extraordinarily violent being in this country. He doesn't like the idea that people have come here and been extremely violent
in this country.
And he doesn't like them either.
Yeah, well, they're born here. They're American citizens, and they have rights. So why I don't understand why he doesn't. Over the history of this country, you don't think that we've been dealing with extraordinarily violent people for a very long time?
Yeah, he'd probably say we're not dealing with them tough enough. I mean, it's probably his view. I mean, you heard what he said. He does not like the idea that extremely violent populations are not dealt with in the toughest possible manner. That is basically his position.
Last word, Bakari?
No, I mean, I think this is exactly what it is. I mean, I think a lot of it's rooted in the words that people don't like around this table. It's rooted in a lot of xenophobia. It's rooted in a lot of bigotry. It is what it is. We should enforce the laws of this land. However, what we're doing right now, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning, is completely anti-American. I mean, the fact, simply because you are looking for a better life, and yes, we want to deport, and I want to be extremely clear, people who commit a crime, violent or not, no one is arguing that point with you. But Alligator Alcatraz is the most un-American thing I've seen probably since last week.
All right, guys, next for us, the president says he would arrest New York City's Democratic mayoral candidate and calls him a communist. We're going to discuss that next.